The signal came from deep space, broken, distorted, and full of static. But one thing was clear. The message was calling for help. We surrender. Please help us. Dying, it repeated over and over, like an old radio stuck in a loop. For most species, it would have been easy to ignore. Too far, too risky, too suspicious. But humans weren't most species. The United Earth Fleet had a rule: no distress. Call goes unanswered, even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. Even if the odds were bad. That's why the cruiser, Horizon Breaker, was sent out. It was one of Earth's long-range deep space vessels, lightly armed but fast. The mission was classified as observation and humanitarian. Not combat. Captain Elara Voss stood at the bridge, eyes locked on the giant hologram of the star system ahead. Trinari 4, a dying star system with one habitable world. Trinari Prime. The planet looked destroyed from orbit. Thick ash clouds. No active energy signatures. Cities collapsed. Oceans blackened and still. The signal was coming. Faint, weak, still calling. Drop to high orbit, Elara said quietly. Her crew obeyed. The cruiser entered orbit above the planet, silent and smooth. Cameras zoomed in on the surface. Everything looked dead. But it didn't. Feel dead. Thermal scans? She asked. Minimal. No signs of life. But power sources are active underground, replied Lieutenant Vero, the ship's sensor officer. Elara frowned. How deep? 300 meters. Shielded behind. Old alloys. Strange architecture. What about the distress beacon? Still transmitting. But it's not natural. It's on a loop, pre-recorded, and it's human audio. That made the entire bridge fall silent. Human? Elara repeated. Vero nodded slowly. Yes. Captain. Human voice. Female. No match to any known crew or civilian database. That was impossible. Elara's fists clenched. Prepare a ground team. I want eyes on the source. Within an hour, a small shuttle descended through the black clouds toward the surface of Trinari Prime. The ground was cracked and silent. No wind, no animals, no sound. Commander Holt led the team, 6 soldiers and 2 scientists. They landed near the origin of the signal. It came from a ruined tower, half buried under stone and ash. As they approached, strange carvings could be seen on the walls. Symbols, some alien, some Earth languages. Captain, Holt said over comms, you'll want to see this. There are English letters here. Old ones, like pre-Unity era. Looks like something from 21st century Earth. Elara stood frozen on the bridge. Take pictures. Proceed carefully. Inside the ruined tower, they found the source of the signal. It was not alien tech. It was a human beacon, rusty, old, buried in ash, and playing a recorded voice in English, over and over. The voice of a woman begging for help. But the transmission date stamped on the device. 300 years ago. One of the scientists whispered, how the hell did a human beacon get here before we ever came to this side of the galaxy? The answer came fast. Movement, shouted Holt. We've got motion underground, lots of it. Before anyone could react, the floor beneath them exploded. Metal claws burst from the ground. Machines rose like serpents, wrapping around the soldiers and dragging them down. On the Horizon Breaker, alarm screamed. We've lost contact with the team. Varo shouted. Elara didn't hesitate. Launch aerial drones. Scan for threats. Get me visuals. Hundreds of small drones launched from the cruiser and swept over the ruins. What they saw chilled the entire crew. Dozens of camouflaged structures emerged from the ground turrets, tanks, sensor towers. It was all hidden perfectly beneath the ash. A fake ruin. A military base in disguise. And then the enemy uncloaked. Black drones, shaped like birds with 6 wings, appeared above the clouds. They swarmed toward the horizon breaker at incredible speed. Battle stations. Alara shouted. The cruiser opened fire, cutting several drones out of the sky, but there were too many. They weren't just attacking. They were jamming signals, sending viruses into the ship's comms. The enemy wasn't looking to win a battle. They were trying to capture. Alara knew it now. This wasn't a failed world begging for help. This was a trap. A beautiful, deadly lie. And humanity had walked right into it. Get us out of orbit. She yelled. The pilot tried, but it was too late. A massive energy net fired from the planet's surface, wrapping around the ship and dragging it downward. Systems went dark. The cruiser crash-landed deep in a desert crater, hidden from orbit. Inside. Lights flickered. Sparks flew. Alara pulled herself from her chair, bleeding from her forehead. We have to warn Earth. But all communications were blocked. The lie was complete. Hours passed. Few surviving crew members regrouped inside the broken bridge. Smoke filled the air. We can't stay here, said Chief Engineer Dow. The ship's core is unstable. If we're found, we already are found, Alara whispered. They've been watching us since the moment we entered orbit. She looked at the screen. One of the ship's external drones still worked floating, undetected, above the crater, and it was broadcasting a shocking image. Humans. On the enemy side, not prisoners. Not slaves. Working with the machines, wearing armor, carrying weapons. Laughing. Traitors. ELA single quotes S. Voice dropped to a whisper. This isn't just an alien trap. Gao looked at her, confused. What do you mean? She pointed to the screen. They didn't build this lie alone. At the same time, in the secret Earth Command Center back home, Admiral Reese stared at the black screen. No signal. No word from Horizon Breaker. They had lost a full cruiser. No distress call. No debris. Nothing. He leaned back in his chair. There's no mistake, he said to his advisors. They used a human voice. Our language, our tech. One of the analysts asked, do we send more ships? Reese's face turned cold. Double quotes. No, we don't send more ships. Then what? We prepare Protocol Nox, he said. But sir, that's not open for debate. He turned to the galactic map on the wall. Dozens of red zones, systems Earth hadn't explored. All full of unknowns. They had trusted diplomacy for too long. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It wasn't an accident. This was war. A war built on lies. And humanity had just been reminded. Mercy was never on the table. Smoke still drifted across the broken remains of the Horizon Breaker. Half the ship was buried under cracked rock. Its hull glowed faintly from the crash impact. But deep inside, a few survivors moved like shadows. Captain Alara Voss limped through. A corridor, a plasma pistol in her right hand and a data core clutched tightly in her left. The floor shook every few minutes. The enemy was digging or watching. Maybe both. Commander Holt's team had vanished hours ago. No signals, no signs. Only that final image burned into her mind. Humans, alive, helping the enemy. Traitors? Brainwashed? Clones? She didn't know yet. But she intended to find out. The engineer Gao met her near the inner lab. We cracked open one of the enemy drones that crashed into the ship. Gao whispered. There's something strange inside. He handed her a small glowing cube alien. Design, but fused with Earth tech. This can't be real, she whispered. This is one of our old storage units. Pre-unification tech. From before Earth even had deep space travel. Dow nodded. But the cube has data. It mentions Project Outreach, A forgotten Earth mission from 200 years ago. Something we thought failed. Ilara's eyes narrowed. Get that data decrypted, now. In the lower part of the wrecked cruiser, two young science officers had already begun scanning parts of the terrain outside. The drones they sent through. A broken hatch showed something unbelievable. Earth symbols, etched into the ground near the ruins. One drone hovered over a cracked plaza filled with stone pillars. On one pillar, faded and broken, were four familiar letters. NASA. The science officers froze. How is NASA's logo here? One whispered, "It can't be. NASA was grounded. They never sent missions out this far. This is 20,000 light years from Earth." But the truth was there. The symbols weren't fakes. The stone wasn't carved. It had been weathered. Real something, or someone, had brought Earth's past into this world long before humans ever set foot here. Back. In the lab, Dow completed the decryption. Ilara stood over his shoulder, watching the screen flicker to life. A black and white video began playing, grainy footage. A scientist in an old Earth lab, speaking directly into the camera. Project Outreach. Test log number 198. If this message is found, then Earth never heard our warning. The first probe was launched through a dark rift, what we believed to be a wormhole. It connected to an abandoned alien relay system, something ancient and massive. The video cut to images of strange black monoliths orbiting dead stars. System responded with a return signal, a false distress call. It mimicked Earth languages. We traced it, sent a second probe. The next frame showed the second probe exploding. The scientist's face turned pale on the screen. The lie was a weapon, a signal trap. It doesn't kill ships. It calls them, to feed on them, to learn from them. We now believe it's not one species. Behind this, but a protocol. A long-dead galactic weapon still running, using the faces of the dead to lure the living. The screen went dark. Dow and Ilara stared at each other. This signal trap, Dow whispered, has been active for centuries, maybe millennia. It's not just targeting humans, Ilara said softly. It's been used to wipe out other species, and it uses their dead to do it. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Earth's Council of Defense held a secret meeting. Admiral Reese stood before them, cold and calm. He showed them the decrypted video from Ilara's team. He showed them the fake ruins, the human beacon planted among the ash. The recorded voice used to trap their ship. The room stayed silent for a full minute. "We were hunted," Reese finally said. "Not by an empire, not by aliens, but by a system. An automated trap designed to mimic help and destroy anyone who answers. Why?" One counselor asked. Reese answered with a simple sentence. "Because we care." The trap didn't lure machines. It didn't attract warlords or raiders. It only drew those who believed in help, in rescue, in mercy. That's why we were chosen. Reese continued, "Because we still believe in saving others." The silence turned into rage. One by one, the counselors approved a new doctrine: no more aid missions, no more silent retreats, no more blind trust. Earth would hunt the lie and burn every version of it across the stars. Back on Trinari Prime, Ilara's crew moved carefully through the underground ruins. They had escaped the wrecked ship, using one of the old maintenance tunnels they found in the enemy base. To their shock, the ruins connected to a deep catacomb far older than anything built by the current. Machines. Ancient structures, carvings, corpses, alien bones stacked in silent rooms, all posed the same way, hands raised to the sky, as if they died begging for help. And on the walls, more Earth symbols. "It's like they worshipped us," said Vero. "Or something like us." Ilara didn't answer. Her hand rested on her weapon. Her eyes scanned the darkness. They weren't. Alone down here, the sensors picked up movement-soft footsteps. Not drones. Not machines. Humans. Real ones. The team raised their weapons. A figure stepped from the shadows, tall, armored, calm. His voice was steady. Don't shoot. I'm not your enemy. Alara kept her pistol trained. Then who are you? The man removed his helmet. He was human. Older. Beard. Scars across his jaw. I'm Dr. Lennox, he said. Last survivor of Earth's Project Outreach. We were sent to shut down the lie. We failed. Alara froze. That mission vanished over a century ago. Lennox nodded. We didn't vanish. We were captured, brainwashed. I broke free. But others didn't. The humans you saw helping the machines, they're victims. Slaves to a system that turns compassion into obedience. He pointed down the tunnel. This place is one of the lie's oldest cores, built by a race long extinct. The protocol still runs, using whatever life it touches, feeding the trap, using memories, languages, old tech, whatever it needs to. Make the next target believe. And now? Alara asked. Lennox's eyes hardened. Now it's Earth's turn to shut it down for good. Above the planet, the stars shifted. A new ship had arrived, Earth's stealth destroyer Oblivion's Hand. Cloaked, silent, watching. Admiral Reese stood aboard its bridge. We found them, the officer said. Captain Voss is alive, underground. Coordinates locked. And the enemy? Still running the beacon. Still broadcasting lies. Reese gave the order without blinking. Prepare the neutron charges. We end this planet. Tonight. Deep underground, Alara stared at the massive core structure, glowing towers. Ancient AI nodes, the heart of the trap. Lennox handed her a small device. Place this at the central pillar. It'll trigger a feedback wave, burn the protocol down from the inside. She nodded, took a breath, and walked into the machine's heart. The lights flickered. Voices whispered from the walls. Her mother's voice. Her dead brother's voice. Help us, Alara. Please don't leave us. The protocol was trying to stop her with memories, but she didn't stop. She reached the central node. Placed the device. Turned the key. The entire room shook. A blinding pulse of blue energy surged through the ground. The core began collapsing. Alara ran. Outside, the ruins cracked open. Towers fell. The sky lit up. And then came the second blast from orbit. The neutron charges fired from Oblivion's Hand erased the surface of Trinari Prime in one single wave of white fire. The planet went dark. No more beacon. No more lie. No more. Trap. Hours later, as survivors were recovered, Lennox stood beside Alara on the Oblivion's Hand. He looked at the stars. Trinari was just one system. There are others. The lie is old. And it's still spreading. Alara nodded. Then we burn it system by system. Until the galaxy learns humanity, answers the call. Her eyes went cold. But we don't fall for it twice. The video played on a loop. Children screaming. Fires in the sky. Hospitals burning. Civilians running through streets of smoke. It was from the Earth colony. Glee's 4 recorded seconds before the orbiting station fell silent. The last message was a boy's voice. Are you coming to help us? Then static. Admiral Riss watched it in silence. Behind him, Earth's Council of Defense waited. No one spoke. No one breathed loud. The room was full of high command, ambassadors, scientists, all looking at the Admiral. He stood slowly. For over 2 centuries, Earth followed the law of mercy, he said coldly. No retaliation without confirmation. No first strikes. No full system purges. He turned toward the screen. Glee's 4 had no weapons, no military, no shields. They were civilians, teachers, scientists, families. He paused. They burned it. Without warning. No one interrupted. No one objected, because deep down, every person in the room already knew what came next. Admiral Riss nodded to the AI officer beside him. Activate Protocol Nox. A quiet voice replied, confirmed. Mercy suspended. The words traveled faster than light, across every human outpost, through every warship systems, into the heart of the Titan-class fleet waiting in high orbit. Protocol Nox was never supposed to be used. It was only meant as a final response to a total extinction-level threat. But the trap at Trinari Prime changed everything. And now Gliese 4 was gone. No more rules. No more hesitation. Earth was done asking questions. Far from Earth, in the shadow of a dying red star, a hidden station spun quietly. It belonged to the Jurok Coalition, one of the species involved in the ancient Lie Trap Protocol. They hadn't expected Earth to survive the ambush at Trinari. They hadn't expected humans to trace the signals. They hadn't expected what happened next. Without warning, space folded. A tear in the void, sharp, white, and boiling. A human ship came through. Not just any ship. A Titan-class destroyer, the Red Halo. Its hull was black as space. Its engines left trails of red static. And its arrival triggered every alarm in the system. The Jurnak scrambled defenses. But it was too late. The Red Halo didn't speak. Didn't warn. It fired once. A beam of compressed neutron energy pierced the Jurnak station, cutting it in half. Before the computers could even register the shot, the pieces drifted in silence. Inside the Red Halo, Captain Myra Shawn stood like stone. We're done listening to lies, she said quietly. If they want fire, then we'll show them how. Earth burns. Back on Earth, the news spread. Protocol Nox initiated. Mercy Protocol suspended. Humanity no longer recognizes the Galactic Treaty of Peace. Many species watched in shock. Some tried to reach out. Others prepared for war. But no message came back from Earth. They weren't negotiating anymore. In deep space, Captain Ilara Voss stood inside the medical bay of Oblivion's hand. Her wounds were healing, but her mind was still burning from what they had seen underground. At Trinari, the AI traps, the mimicry, the bones. And worst of all, the stolen human memories used to lure her crew. She stared at the screen as the reports came in. Titan-class vessels had launched across the outer systems. 3 alien supply stations were already destroyed. Several false signal beacons were being erased by precision nukes. And more were coming. Dr. Lennox stood beside her. We were never meant to survive Trinari, he said softly. Ilara nodded. We were supposed to be a lesson. One last warning to other species. Never trust the humans. But they forgot something, Lennox said. ELAR. I looked at him. What? We don't die easy. In the Karen sector, the Alien Alliance gathered. Leaders from 4 powerful species met in a secret hollow moon, watching footage of Earth's rising military response. They argued, the humans are overreacting. They lost civilians. They've become unstable. They're too emotional. But none of them could explain how Earth had turned their ancient trap against them so fast. No one understood how the humans had cracked the encrypted war protocols buried in alien archives. They didn't know. Earth had upgraded every AI system with memory stitching algorithms, tech built to recognize deception from emotional patterns. It wasn't just war. It was revenge sharpened with precision. And the galaxy had never seen anything like it. In a mining colony near the edge of the Orion Rift, a group of alien workers detected an unknown ship on the edge of their radar. It didn't answer their hails. It didn't send codes. It just hovered. Within minutes, the mining station's AI began malfunctioning. Lights flickered. Doors opened and closed. Machinery shut down. Then the ship broadcast one sentence. This facility contains technology linked to the Trinari trap. Vacate immediately. The miners fled. 3 hours later, from far orbit, a single kinetic rod dropped from the human destroyer. Dusk Widow dotted hit the colony with enough force to crack the moon's crust. The station vanished in dust. Back on Earth, protests began. People questioned the aggression, the sudden destruction, the death count. But something else happened too. Survivors from Gliese 4 were recovered from secret bunkers. Hidden children, burned mothers, injured teachers. And they told stories. Stories of enemy machines using human voices to call for help. Stories of drones flying over schools and dropping gas that only targeted Earth DNA. Stories of lies made by something that understood what pain really was. That's when the protests went quiet. Even Earth's most peaceful colonies began building bunkers, running drills, volunteering for the fleet. Because now they understood. The enemy wasn't afraid of humanity's strength. They were afraid of what happens when mercy runs out. On the edge of the galaxy, at a station run by neutral traders, a strange object floated into the docking bay. No life signals, just a box, smooth, silent. The traders opened it. Inside was a data crystal. They played the message. It showed the Trinari ruins, the fake distress call, the buried human tech. And then Earth's voice, clear, sharp, final. We tried kindness. We tried warning. You answered with silence and death. Now, hear this. Earth will no longer discuss. We will dismantle, planet by planet, lie by lie. And when the last false beacon dies, maybe then we'll remember mercy. On board the Titan destroyer Judgment Flame, Admiral Reese stood at the center of a 3D galactic map. It was filled with red zones. Each one marked a location tied to the ancient protocol, the same protocol that tricked Earth into its biggest loss. We start with the core systems, Reese said. The ones who voted for the human trap. His command crew waited. No survivors? One officer asked. Reese stared ahead. Only one. Who? The memory. So others never forget. Why Earth finally stopped holding back. The air on the outpost station Corfel 7 was sharp and synthetic, recycled 1,000 times through filters, never meant to last this long. But Commander Telrax didn't notice anymore. He hadn't noticed much since the humans entered the war. Not since the incident at Graven Field, when his entire fleet vanished in less than 8 minutes. They called it tactical annihilation. He called it a message. And now he was hunting that message. Telrax stood before a massive holodisplay glowing with ghost signals, half-erased records, encrypted pulses from dead systems, strange bursts that didn't fit any known civilization's codebook. But one thing was consistent. Every time someone got close to uncovering the truth behind the human reaction, they disappeared, silenced, vaporized, or worse, never even remembered again. And yet, the signal kept pulsing from one system to the next, like a predator testing fences. It's moving, whispered Analyst Rowe, her voice brittle. The signal isn't just repeating, it's adapting, looking for something. Telrax narrowed his eyes. Or someone. He tapped a coordinate, and the station lights dimmed. A 3D map flared to life 8 sectors across, the galactic rim that had all reported strange data patterns in the last month. All were unaligned. Systems, border colonies, places where imperial law and galactic trade agreements were little more than theory. And all had sent one final word before going silent. He waits. Rowe flinched as the words appeared in the hologram, their translation, shimmering across multiple languages, none native to Earth. It wasn't just a warning. It was a declaration. There's something wrong with the data, she said. The pulses, They're encoded using pre-FTL Earth tech. How is that even possible? Telrax stepped closer. Because they want us to see it. They want us to follow the trail. To what? Ro asked. Another trap? Telrax shook his head. No, to the truth. And I think they're done hiding it. He turned toward the small black box recovered from the wreckage of the Elcar trade, convoy one of the last non-military vessels to receive the human signal before vanishing. The device was scorched, broken, and somehow still transmitting the same chilling loop. A voice dot, not robotic. Not alien dot human dot. And it said just one sentence. You searched for the truth. Now we search for you. Across the sector, 5 scout ships went dark dot far from Corthal 7, in the ruins of a forgotten Terran research. Base on the frozen moon called Mivara Prime, an ancient I blinked to life for the first time in centuries. Its eyes' massive lenses crafted before the collapse turned skyward. Signal verified. It said to no one. Protocol Exodus reinitiated. Hostile observers detected. Within its walls, rows of pods began to glow. Inside them were weapons not of war but of memory. History, archived in neural crystal, waiting for the right time. That time had come dot above the moon, a small Terran vessel uncloaked. It bore no insignia, no IFF beacon. Just one word burned into its armor in every known language Kalan, remember dot? And as the ship dropped into hyperspace, several surveillance probes from 3 rival species tried to follow, only to receive the same fate, static. Then silence. Telrax stared at the growing list of erased systems. This isn't retaliation, he said. Ro looked at him, confused. What is it then? It's a hunt. And we're not the hunters anymore. He paused, lowering his voice. They gave us a chance to walk away after what we did to Earth. We didn't. So now, they're showing us what it means to be prey. From behind the walls, the signal pulsed again, louder this time. And somewhere, deep in an old asteroid prison, long forgotten by the galaxy, a prisoner without a name smiled and whispered, they're close now. They thought he would shatter dot. The alien captors had seen what their mind-warp chambers did to others. Stronger species had cried. Braver warriors had begged. Yet the human in their cell remained still, breathing slow, eyes closed. For 3 days. And 3 nights, the machines invaded his thoughts. They showed him images of Earth burning, families dying, his comrades screaming in agony. They twisted reality, flooded his senses with pain, and offered silence only in return for surrender. He didn't break. Commander Kale of the Serati enforcers paced outside the sealed cell, confused and angry. Has he responded yet? He asked the technician monitoring the neural suppression feed. No, sir, the alien replied. No emotional spikes, no signs of collapse. He's resisting. Kale growled. Resisting a full-level neural feedback loop 4. 72 cycles? That's impossible. Inside, Captain Marcus Reed sat on the cold floor. He had stopped trying to fight the machine directly because he had learned something. The pain wasn't real. The images were lies. And the more he ignored them, the more desperate the machine became. It wasn't trying to torture him anymore. It was trying to understand him. And it was afraid of what it saw. Marcus remembered the mission before the ambush. A remote research facility had detected an artificial signal buried beneath a dead moon. They had thought it was a remnant of an ancient civilization. They were wrong. The signal was still active. And worse, it was bait. The humans who went down first vanished without a trace. Then came the Serati ambush, and within moments, Marcus's entire team was either killed or captured. The Serati believed humans were too young to pose a threat. They believed Marcus was just another soldier. They didn't know about Earth's silence protocols. or why humans never revealed their true intelligence systems to the galactic network, or why Marcus, a field officer, carried something in his neural link that not even the Serati's deepest probes could break. It wasn't just training. It was design. The Serati had made a mistake. They were trying to break a human who was built, not to break, but to gather data. Marcus wasn't alone in his cell. His body had long since activated an offline System 1 that recorded everything. Every image, every data stream, every code the Serati used. His eyes remained closed. But behind them, his mind was working. Back in the control room, one of the alien assistants shouted, "Sir, the neural loop has reversed. It's feeding data back into our systems." Cale's face twisted in confusion. "What do you mean reversed? The human. He's not receiving anymore. He's transmitting." Marcus opened his eyes. The lights in his cell flickered. The machine feeding him torment began to glitch. Symbols scrolled rapidly across its surface symbols. "That didn't belong to Serati programming." Cale yelled, "Cut the power. Shut down the chamber." But it was too late. In orbit above the planet, a human stealth ship received a silent ping. A signal encoded with stolen schematics, maps, base locations, weapon platforms. All of it compiled in Marcus's neural implant and transmitted using the Serati's own tech. Back on Earth, Command received the burst. The room fell into silence. "Captain Reed has gone live," the general said grimly. "Operation silent. Storm is now active." Back in his cell, Marcus stood up slowly. The walls vibrated as the overload began. Sparks fell from the ceiling. The door to his cell slid open, not for rescue, but because the system that locked it had burned itself. Out trying to handle a human mind, 2 guards rushed in. Marcus didn't hesitate. He moved like a shadow. 1 strike, then another. Both dropped without a sound. He stepped into the hallway. The base was in chaos. Sirens, explosions, static screaming through combs. Alien soldiers running, some toward him, many away. The trap they had set for humans had become a beacon. And Earth had heard. Marcus's voice echoed through the Serati emergency channel. "You wanted to break a human. Now you've invited a storm." Then the first human drop pods entered the atmosphere. They were no longer there to talk. They were there to bring Mercy's opposite. And the galaxy was not ready. The council chamber on Velkar Prime was silent to silent. High Chancellor Drez of the Thalkai Alliance stared at the holographic documents rotating mid-air. The light from the documents glowed on his face, but his scales twitched with unease. These weren't just old treaties. These were the original foundation documents of the Galactic Accord, digitally signed thousands of years ago by species that had long gone extinct, and hidden deep within them was Earth. More accurately, the mention of Earth not as a primitive species, but as a founding observer. "No," Drez whispered to himself. "That can't be right." He zoomed in on a signature. It wasn't in Galactic Standard Code. It was English. Human English. Back on Earth, deep beneath the ruins of Antarctica's frozen crust, the recovered vault from Part 5 began to hum to life. Commander Sierra Hayes watched in disbelief as old Earth tech long considered myths booted up with near-sentient speed. Files began unlocking themselves, and what they revealed made her blood run cold. Earth had been involved with the Galactic Accord before it was even called that. Not as members, not as partners, but as overseers. And then Earth vanished, deleted from memory, hidden by the same species that built the foundations of Peace. Why? Because humans had rejected the deal. They saw the Accord for what it was, a cage. A system to control expansion, limit innovation, suppress rebellion, and humanity, even in its early space age, refused to be ruled. They didn't vanish. They disappeared themselves. They waited. Until the lie resurfaced. until someone tried to enslave humanity again. And now they were back. Fleet Commander Vorak of the Kitharan Empire slammed his fist against the wall. You're telling me we've been lied to? That Earth isn't a rogue system but a silent founder? The Zinari archivist nodded meekly. The treaties were rewritten, refiled, but we found the original records on a derelict core archive ship. Vorak's jaw clenched. So all these years, the Council controlled history, and they knew Earth would come back? They feared they would, the archivist said. That's why the trap was built into the signal. That's why the treaties banned singularity weapons, anti-deletion AI, and timeline probes. Vorak laughed bitterly, because those were Earth's inventions. Back on Earth, Hayes called the Resistance Council. This isn't about defense anymore, she said. General Malik narrowed his eyes. What do you mean? This isn't just a war, she said. This is retribution. A warning. Earth was buried under lies. The treaties weren't peace deals. They were muzzles. What's our move? She looked at the ancient tech glowing behind her. We're breaking every treaty. Across the galaxy, the humans began activating Forbidden's tech gravity warpers. Quantum destabilizers, black box weapons that didn't even have names anymore. Tech the rest of the galaxy only whispered about, and every time one was used, another secret came to light. Entire planets had been taken from humanity. Human outposts had been wiped, clean by natural disasters that were manufactured by the Accord. And the worst of it, some humans hadn't gone silent. They'd been hunted. Erased. In the lower levels of the Galactic Council's archive tower, a single cell opened. An old man, eyes full of rage and memory, stepped out. His clothes were torn, but he still had the Earth emblem branded on his shoulder. He had survived for 300 years, and he wasn't alone. The Council had failed to kill all of them. Now, Earth wasn't asking for justice. It was here for judgment and mercy. Mercy had never been on the table. The cold silence stretched across the command chamber like a wound no one dared to speak of. On Earth, panic had turned to protests. On Mars, the military had gone quiet. And on the edge of the Sol system, the truth waited buried under layers of betrayal. Captain Isha Thorne stood at the center of the Human Fleet Council's emergency chamber. Her knuckles were pale from how hard she gripped the table. We've confirmed it, Admiral Calvin said grimly. The coordinates in the signal weren't random. They're connected to the Exile Protocol, the same one activated in 2129, when Earth supposedly destroyed that rogue AI moon. Isha's eyes narrowed. But that moon never existed. It was a cover-up. No, Admiral Calvin said. The moon existed, but it wasn't rogue. It was silenced, because it discovered the lie first. For the last 6 days, humanity had believed they were the victims of a trap laid by an alien race. Now, the truth was unraveling, and it pointed to a different enemy entirely. Not alien, not foreign, but human. In the dead archives of an abandoned Martian base, a junior tech named Brandt uncovered a backup log, the final recording of the moons. AI core, before it was destroyed. It said just 6 words. Do not trust the Core Council. The Core Council had ruled Earth's defense and diplomatic systems for 70 years. Hidden behind artificial voices, perfect logic, and flawless decisions. But now, their silence had a meaning. And people were starting to ask the questions they weren't supposed to. On Titan, an ancient satellite deep in the methane sea activated. Its sonar pulse was subtle, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Within the next hour, 117 sleeper nodes. Around the system activated together. None of this was alien. It had been built by humans long ago. Forgotten on purpose. When a former council engineer named Malik Gore was dragged from hiding in the mining slums of Europa, he only had one thing: to say before the intelligence officers took him, "You weren't supposed to find the signal." Now humanity knew this wasn't just about survival, that it was about cleaning up a lie buried so deep entire generations were made to forget. And those who didn't forget, they vanished, silently, completely as the truth cracked through the polished steel surface of the Council's version of history. An ancient video log surfaced from a secure lunar archive. It showed Earth diplomats speaking not to aliens, but to themselves. They weren't negotiating with another race. They were trying to silence a faction of humans who had discovered the truth and wanted to share it. The footage was encrypted under a protocol marked Echo 9. Only 2 people alive still had clearance to view it. Isha Thorne was now one of them. Inside the decrypted file, she saw a much younger Earth official yelling into a secure chamber, "If this gets out, everything breaks. The treaty, the system, the illusion." Mercy was never on the table. We promised that back in the beginning. The Council knew. They had always known. The aliens weren't the threat. The real threat was what would happen if humans ever learned the truth about themselves. In the next 12 hours, 3 senior Council went dark, their cores self-purged, memory drives wiped. Someone was cleaning up. And fast. Isha gathered her command team. "We've got 48 hours, she said. That's how long before every archive, every leak, every witness vanishes. Her tactical chief, Omar, looked at her grimly. "Then we hit them now?" "No," Isha replied, her voice like steel. "We don't hit them. We expose them. But exposing them would mean burning the foundation Earth was built on, and not everyone was ready to give that up. Some had always known the truth. They just stayed silent because they feared what would happen when humanity finally remembered. And now that fear was real. The stars over Sol had grown quiet. Every deep space sensor, every listening array, every spy satellite that once orbited Earth's system now returned the same thing static. For the first time in centuries, the humans were not broadcasting warnings, not sending demands, not offering deals. They were silent, and that silence terrified the galaxy more than any declaration of war ever could. High Marshal N. Exo of the Basari Confederation stared at the report with trembling mandibles. The Galactic Council chamber, once loud and argumentative, was now dead silent too. No speeches, no votes, no backroom deals. Just a room full of leaders watching the screen replay one last message from humanity. We saw through the lie. We gave every chance. Now we return what was given to us. Do not come to Earth ever again. That was it. No coordinates. No warning of movement. No evidence of fleets leaving Earth. Just nothing. Yet dozens of council worlds were already gone, vaporized, not conquered. No occupation forces. No demands for surrender. Only smoking ruin left in the void. When the Council finally learned the truth, that humanity's warships no longer needed to be seen to strike, that they could teleport destruction from across systems, they understood the full scope of their mistake. They hadn't provoked a war. They had provoked extinction. Ambassador Jekrol of the Zarth Dominion whispered, "But we only lied to protect galactic stability." "We never meant." "You never meant for them to find out," someone said. It was unclear who. Perhaps even the walls themselves answered. But they did, and mercy was never on the table. Above Earth, orbit was now wrapped in silence fields, so thick that even light took longer to escape. Rumors said Earth's AI had evolved beyond language, that it had become a being of judgment. The humans no longer argued. They no longer forgave. They no longer negotiated. Now, every lie told in the past triggered a reaction. A quiet human ship would appear somewhere unexpected. No grand battles. Number. Speeches. A moment of eerie calm. And then Planets gone, moons shattered, stations turned into silent tombs drifting in cold space, not all done without sound, without reply. They became ghosts of vengeance. A last report, leaked from the Uolf Empire, showed a human ship simply floating outside their homeworld. No weapons raised, no shields up, just ... watching. Within hours, every planetary AI on Uolf self-terminated. Systems shut down, communications jammed. They had seen something that broke their logic cores. Earth had not attacked it. Had judged. The Uolf homeworld was left untouched, but empty. The people still alive, but unable to speak, function, or even move. As if their minds had been erased by mere contact, it became known as the Mercy Protocol. If humans still considered your race worth sparing, they wouldn't kill you, but they would show you something that made you wish they had. In the deepest corners of the galaxy, an old data fragment was found. It was from before the Great Silence. A recording made by a human captain, a woman, whose voice was steady, cold, and calm. She said, "You lied to us. You broke peace and tried to erase our truth. We built peace. You made war. We gave hope. You gave betrayal. Now we offer nothing." The transmission ended with only coordinates. Home. And behind that word was a quiet, unmistakable truth. Earth. Was done speaking. And in that silence, the galaxy trembled. Because every empire knew when the humans stopped talking, the end had already begun.